might just have a small group today, and that's okay.
Better for questions, right? Some
Yes.
Q&A if you have it.
Stop sharing for a minute. Okay, so welcome, Laura and Darla. I'm Sadie Everett, and I'm the director of the Regional Autism Advisory Council that lives at the University of Cincinnati in the IDD Education Center. And the goal of RAC is to provide opportunities to collaborate, to connect, to network, to resource share, and also an opportunity to provide training and professional development. And my friend here, partner in crime, Amanda Tipkemper, came to me at the beginning of the year and said, "Hey, I would really like to offer a space for some advocacy in and advocacy in action." I mean, that's what I named it, but basically providing really targeted information to families, providers, educators, you name it, who are supporting youth, who are supporting students in either an educational setting or in a community setting. So we are really trying to deep dive into some of these issues and make this information accessible at your fingertips. And we offer this advocacy in action once a month, but we also rotate the times to try to offer different opportunities for people to attend live on Zoom. But we are recording the sessions as well. And I have a YouTube channel where I'm storing all of the recordings from past events. And then I also share it up on my RAC website, which I will put in the chat at some point during this session. And and then I will also share a feedback form, which it's very short, just to, hopefully to get some ideas of what you would like to learn about, what information you're just not sure about, so that we can bring that to you, so that we can deliver on some of the requests. And am I forgetting anything, Amanda?
The Padlet. So
Oh,
I'm putting the
yes.
Padlet in the chat right now, and this has got the links to that YouTube channel, to the RAC website, to the past presentations, and just a variety of different resources that we have collected throughout those presentations. Again, these are to share. So please, if you know people that would benefit from this information, please do pass it along and um, share what you think would be beneficial. And then we'll be collecting feedback to see if there's any specific topics that you think are really relevant. It's the beginning of the school year, and this is typically a time when people are trying to get their kids evaluated for services. So we thought that this was really relevant. Back in August, we were talking about financial planning, and in October, we're planning on talking about transition planning. And that transition planning is going to be full of resources, but it's not just relevant to kids on an IEP, it's relevant to anyone who would benefit from some intentional transition planning into adulthood, right?
Awesome. Yeah, so with that all said, Amanda and I will be dropping some things in the chat, but I'm going to turn it over to Alma Davis from OCECD. I'll let her tell you what that stands for. And she is going to take us through a deep dive of the evaluation process, and I'll let her take it from here.
Thank you so much, Sadie and Amanda. Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing good. So my name is Alma Davis, and I am the information specialist and trainer for the Ohio Coalition for the Education of Children with Disabilities, OCECD. It's a mouthful. So I just wanted to just share some information.
Oops.
I have been with the coalition for a little over 2 years, going on 3 this year, and I serve families in Southwest Ohio and also in Lorain County. I'm bilingual, so I speak Spanish and English. So I support all the families that have children with disabilities, to provide information in support, but the bulk of my support is to families that speak Spanish. But like I said, I support everybody. Um, and I'm just excited to share a little more information about what OCECD does and this training that we're going to be doing today, which is understanding the evaluation process through IDEA 2004. And welcome again to understanding the evaluation process. Um, this training is being brought to you by the Ohio Coalition for the Education of Children with Disability. We are a statewide nonprofit organization that serves families of infant, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities in the state of Ohio, and also the professionals who serve them. We have been funded since 1984 to serve as the Parent Training and Information Center, which is also known as PTI for the state of Ohio. We help parents become informed and effective representative through the knowledge about the law, your resources, the rights and responsibilities. The information that we're bringing you today is part of our role as well. Just a quick thing. We have I have an evaluation at the end of this training. This provides us some data. That data is used to fund us essentially, as our trainings are free for everybody. So at the end, I will provide that link whenever you get a chance. I highly encourage you to please do the evaluation. It only takes a couple minutes. I will be also adding my information in the chat group. If you want to reach out to me personally, I'm also putting in our office information. The main office is in Marion. And like I stated, we are a statewide, so we support families in every district of the state of Ohio. So you can always go to our organization and find the person that supports your area if you are depending on what district you live in. So, or you can reach out to me and, I'm more than willing to help you out and direct you to the person that will be helping you out if you are not in the district that I cover. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and go to the next slide and start our training. So this presentation is for parents and professionals to gain a better understanding of the evaluation process. We need to keep in mind that the evaluation process does not dictate who our children are, but what their needs are, and that we can look at it instead as a problem solving to help them reach their full potential. So this quote says, "The world is but a canvas to our imagination," and this is by Henry David Thoreau. And this is kind of added to it, but it says, "It is only through a creative problem solving that we allow our children to become the beautiful masterpiece that they are meant to be." So I think this resonates really well because, you know, if we provide the support that they need, they can be anything. Go ahead to the next slide. Again, remember that the evaluation process is not just formalities. It is definitely a critical tool that is designed to measure a child's strength and needs. It gives us a starting point, a roadmap to understand how to best support each individual learner. Under IDEA, this evaluation must be considered for the developmental, functional, and academic needs of the child. So the three dimensions ensure that we are not just looking at a test score or a grade, but that we're looking at the child as a whole. We look at the growth, how they function in everyday life, and how they learn. The right guaranteed under IDA 2004 has a purpose. It exists to ensure that every child receives services, support, and accommodations necessary to access education meaningfully. This protection aims to empower children to reach their full potential and not to be limited by their disabilities, circumstances, or assumptions. No one should ever underestimate the value or the ability of a child. Each child brings unique strengths, insights, possibilities into this world. We begin from a place of belief in their potential, and we create a foundation for growth. Ultimately, all children have the right to learn, to be challenged, and to be successful. It is our responsibility, such as educators, families, and community alike, to uphold the rights and work together to create an environment where every child thrives. Next slide. So the evaluation. The evaluation is a procedural used in accordance with the Rule 3301-5106 of the Administrative Code for evaluation to determine. So the evaluation is to determine whether a child has a disability and the nature and the extent of the special education and or related services that a child may need. So evaluations are an important part of determining whether a child qualifies for special education. In the past, the terminology that was used for these evaluation could have been, or sometimes could potentially still be used, is multi-factor evaluation. While we may still hear that term, it is important to know that under IDEA, it is now, and as reflected in the Ohio operating standards, the correct terminology should be initial evaluation or reevaluation. So those are the terms that you should be hearing, but sometimes, we still use the old terms. Next. So the evaluation plays a critical role in determining whether a child qualifies for special education. In special education, we're going to go into what does special education mean. Under IDEA 2004, special education is defined as specially designed instruction at no cost to the parent to meet the unique needs of a child with a disability. This instruction can take place in a variety of settings, in the classroom, at home, in a hospital, or in the hospital or institution. So even in physical education. So the key phrase here is specially designed, meaning that the instruction is tailored to address the individual learning need of that child. The evaluation process is there to help determine whether a child requires specially designed instruction. It is not just about qualifying for service, it's about identifying what support, strategy, and educational approach will help the child access learning and to be successful. Ultimately, the goal of the evaluation is not to be labeled, it's not to label a child, but to understand how we can meet their unique needs through appropriate individualized instructions so that they can grow and thrive and reach their full potential. Next slide. Under IDEA, to qualify for special education, a child must be identified to have one or more of the 13 disability categories that are defined by IDEA. And as you can see here, we have autism, deaf, blindness, developmental delay, and those are from age 3 through 9. Then we have emotional disturbance, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, multiple disabilities. Here, it could be a combination of, intellectual or physical, orthopedic impairment, other health impairment, special learning disabilities, speech and language impairment, traumatic brain injury, and visual impairment to include blindness. The important thing to note here is that the eligibility under one of these categories must come along with demonstrating educational impact, meaning the disability must affect the child's ability to access or progress in the general curriculum. I think sometimes we get into the set that because a child was diagnosed by a medical professional with having a disability, that they are supposed to be in special education. Well, it's not always the case. I think that the important part to take here is that it demonstrates educational impact, meaning it's hindering them to access or learn in the general curriculum. So by identifying a child's unique strength and needs through the evaluation, and by understanding their eligibility under this category, we are better equipped to create a meaningful support and services that will help them reach their full potential. Next slide.
Almost really quick with that,
Mhm.
with the last piece. One of the things that I think has come up a couple times is that is not a permanent identification, right? Like, so for example, you might have a student that was diagnosed with a developmental delay. Well, they can't have that diagnosis past the age of 9. So typically that would require another evaluation to identify another category, right? Or maybe,
Yes, yes.
yeah,
Well, see, the thing about that is you also have to look at the descriptions of each category. So just because they're diagnosed with a specific disability, they can have characteristics of another disability that they can potentially be still on the IEP, but yes, you can request a reevaluation whenever that time comes at that age time frame. So the beauty about this is that the evaluations are done every 3 years, and we'll go more in depth with that as well whenever we're talking about
okay,
the
right.
evaluation and what your options that you potentially have if, for whatever reason, they're like, oh, you're no longer eligible for this or you're not eligible for that. But yes.
And I'm sorry to interrupt too. There's a difference also between like a medical diagnosis and an educational diagnosis. Are you going to touch on that as well? Or
Um, but not on this one. I don't have a specific slide for that.
Mhm.
But like I was stating, the medical diagnosis, you can bring that to the table to the school. The school will do the evaluation based on those data, but they don't just go
Okay.
off on the medical diagnosis. They have to do their own evaluation. And
Right.
that's
Okay.
part of the evaluation that I will kind of discuss, like who looks at it, what they look at, and stuff like that. So yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. And here's a visual of the evaluation roadmap. Some people are, no, I'm a visual. I like to see whenever I'm looking at things. I'm gonna put this in the chat. So if anybody's interested into kind of, because we're gonna talk through all these points. So this kind of gives you a quick rundown. But in this evaluation, this is what it typically looks at. She starts off with a parent having a concern, then after that, maybe the parents speak with the school. They have a pre-evaluation supports or interventions because schools already have intervention that they can potentially do to support the child. You can have a discussion. Then we look at requesting the evaluation, what you need to do to request evaluation. Then we move into the initial or reevaluation, depending on where you're at. We look at the evaluation team report. They look at the eligibility, and then from the eligibility, you can determine if an IEP is required or maybe a different support, potentially what that looks like. The other part of it is that it's always a progress report. There's progress reports that you can request at any time. Potential things that you can do is reevaluations and stuff like that. So this is just kind of like a overview of everything. We're gonna go into a little more in depth in each area. Next slide. So to the process to begin, it begins when someone notices that a student is struggling in a way that may not be addressed by the general education alone. So this could be academic struggles such as difficulty reading or understanding math. We have behavioral or emotional issues, delay in communication, delay in motor skills or social interaction, attention or memory problems, difficulty following direction or staying focused. And these concerns can be raised by a parent or guardian, a teacher or a school staff, or a medical professional, any individual that is involved in the child's care or education. So anybody can bring that up. If a student, if you suspect your child may have a disability and is in need for special education, you have the right to request a evaluation from the school district. To begin the process, you start by writing a letter to the principal of the school that your child attends. In that letter, you should state your concern. You want to explain what you believe your child may be having difficulty or may have a disability. In that, you can describe the areas that your child is struggling, like I said before, either reading, communication, or behavioral. Any patterns that you've noticed. Is he falling back behind from his peers? Is he not responding to interventions? And then you also want to add any medical or developmental history if it's relevant to that concern. So whenever you do that, you are formally requesting an evaluation. So in that letter, you want to clearly state language that is similar to like, I'm requesting a comprehensive evaluation for special education under the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, which is IDEA. That kind of puts it that formal request language. So you want to ask the meeting with the school in your letter. You want to also request a meeting to sign the official request for evaluation form. Sometimes school do have it, sometimes they just take that letter. It just depends. And then you also want to ask for a date to hold for the evaluation planning meeting. And this is where you can discuss areas of concern and what the next steps are. In the next couple slides, I will provide you a sample letter, and I can provide that link as well. Next slide. So important notes. You want to keep a copy of this letter for your record. You also want to date the letter, and you can send it through different ways. It could be email, hand delivered with a signature, or certified mail. We highly, highly encourage you the certified mail way, because then you have that, you know, it's certified, someone signed for it. There's a way of tracking that. So that would be something that we would highly recommend you. So once in Ohio, once a request is made in writing, the district has 30 calendar days to respond with a prior written notice, which is a PR-01. And it's either going to agree to evaluate or it's going to refuse. And it should provide a a reason for why they are refusing. And on the link, I just put in the link for the blank notice. So at that time, whenever they receive that request, they will also provide you a guide to a parent's right in special education. And that is so that you know your rights under the procedural safeguards. And that booklet, go ahead and go to the next page, please. That booklet, this is the new one. So this is what it looks like. I will also provide a link to that. And, if you have a chance, I would highly recommend reading it. There's a lot of good information here, and I'm going to kind of give you a snapshot of it. So this guide will help you understand your rights and your child's right in accordance with IDEA and the Ohio operating standards. It will also give you information and resources to help you understand your child's special education support and services. So this procedural safeguards, they are legal rights and protections provided to parents and guardians of children with disabilities under IDEA and the Ohio operating standard. These safeguards ensure that parents are informed, involved, and treated fairly. Students with disability will receive appropriate services, and schools are held accountable in their special education process. Every parent of a child who is being evaluated or is receiving services under the special education services has the right to receive a copy of the procedural safeguard notice. So when can you get that? I'm sorry. What is important? So this is why it's important, because it protects your child's right. So they ensure that your child is receiving free, appropriate public education, which is FAPE. And a lot of whenever we talk about this, we use a lot of acronyms. So, and FAPE is essentially the child receiving services by the public at no cost to the parents. And you want to make sure that the child is receiving FAPE in the least restrictive environment, meaning that if they want to be part of that general curriculum, that's the goal. We want every child to be included, but sometimes Depending on their needs, they might need to be in different classroom settings. But with this, the least restrictive environment is what they try to go for. So also why it's important is it empowers you as a parent because it gives you a voice and a legal role in the decision-making process about your child's education. The other thing that it does, it provides a legal tool. If you disagree with the school, the procedural safeguards give you a legal option to resolve the dispute. And that could include anything such as mediation, state complaint, and the due process hearing. It also ensures transparency and fairness. They require schools to communicate with you clearly in writing before making a decision, whether it's if they are refusing or something like that about your child's education. And normally, the way that they do that is through prior written notices. So, the rights that the procedural safeguards give you are the right for you to receive the prior written notices. This is to inform you in writing before the school either refuses to initiate or change any kind of stuff that's already in either an IEP or the evaluation itself, or the placement of your child, meaning the placement is where they're going to be receiving the education. It also gives you the right to consent. So you must provide an informed written consent before the school is able to conduct the initial evaluation. And it's a big keynote right there, initial. The reevaluation, not necessarily, they can still go without it, but in the initial, they are required to have a written consent. The right to participate. So you have the right to be involved in all the meetings about your child's IEP, evaluation, and educational placement. They should consider, it is, your input must be considered. Sorry. Also, it gives you the right to access educational records. You can request and review copies of your child's educational records. It gives you the right to dispute resolution. So if you have a disagreement with them, there's ways to resolve the issue. As I mentioned before, mediation, you can file a state complaint or a due process hearing. You also have the right for an independent education evaluation, which is an IEE. And this is if for any chance the school disagrees with the evaluation, saying that the child does not qualify and you disagree with their determination, you are able to request an independent evaluation at the district's expense. And also, you have the right to stay put. If there is a disagreement during a dispute, your child has the right to remain in their current educational placement. So under the dispute, this is called a stay put provision. And then the right of transferring rights at age 18. So in Ohio, when your child turns 18, unless a guardian is appointed, the legal rights under IDA transfer from the parent to the student, and that you must be notified ahead of time. Go ahead, next.
Really quickly, I just want to add for
Yes.
those that are interested more in just more detail around rights and also the dispute resolution process, you can go to the recording in May for more information about that.
Yes.
Thanks, Alma.
And here, no problem. Thank you. And here is a sample letter for initial evaluation on how to request it. I also put the link in there. You can this is kind of just a sample of how it looks, and you can obviously tailor it to the situation, to the concern that you have. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So going to the next phase, if the school agrees to evaluate, they must get informed and written consent from the parent before beginning. So the evaluation cannot begin until a parent or a legal guardian gives written permission. Once consent is signed, the formal education special education evaluation has officially begun. So at this point, this is where everything begins once they've gotten the written consent. So the next important step is to collaborate a meeting between you and the school. This can be called a planning meeting. This meeting is not the evaluation itself, but a critical step in the planning on how the evaluation will be conducted. The purpose of this meeting is to ensure that the evaluation is individualized to your child's unique needs. The school accesses does the assessment of your child in all the areas of the suspected disability, and everyone involved understands the purpose, the scope, and the tools that will be used in the evaluation. So, who will attend this meeting? Parents and guardians, any general education teacher, special educate teachers, or intervention specialist. You also have the school psychologist and any other specialties such as speech or language therapist, OT, PT, that is dependent on your child's need, and a district representative. This can also be the principal and or the special education coordinator. So during this meeting, the team will review and discuss some of the things are like concerns and observations. This could be challenges that the child is facing. The other area would be areas of suspected disability. So this is where you identify which areas need to be evaluated. Some of the things could be like academic performances, cognitive functioning, communication skills, social, emotional, behaviorals, motor skills, which are the fine and gross, vision and hearing, or adaptive living skills. So these are the daily living skills. The other things that will be reviewed is interventions and classroom data. So what interventions have been used already? Has it worked? Has not worked? Any kind of or interventions that the child is responding very well. Here also, the teachers will look at the classwork, any kind of assessment data or teacher input. The other thing will be what assessments will be used. Obviously, there is different types of assessments. The school team will explain the types of assessments that will be conducted and who will be completing them, such as some of the tests are in standardized testings, observations, interview with teachers, parents, and students, rating scales or checklist, medical and or health information if it's relevant. Also, at the end of the meeting, the team completes the planning meeting form, and different districts may call it different things, but it essentially what it is this document is an area that it shows the areas that the child will be assessed at, the type of assessments that will be used, the team members that are responsible for each part, and any additional notes or the parent input. So parents should receive a copy of this form for their record. Tip for that is that this meeting is a great opportunity for parents to ask questions, share their unique insight about their child's strength and challenges and needs. So here you want to the parent is very important because obviously you as the parent know your child the best. So after the planning meeting is done, the school will begin the initial evaluation, and it needs to be completed within 60 calendar days from the day that they received the signed consent. So they have 60 calendar days to complete that. You can always contact the school about any kind of input that you have or anything that you want to add. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. And then in the next slide, this is just a sample of what the planning form looks like. I will also provide the link. So there is a main difference. There's one for the school aged, so the kids that are in kindergarten to 12th grade, and then you have the ones that are the preschoolers, which are like from birth to three or four before they start school. So they look a little different, but here's a sample of it. Next slide. So going into the actual initial evaluation, it is a series of assessment that is used to determine whether a child qualifies for a child with a disability under IDA needs special education services. So once the parent gives the written consent, the child will be assessed in different areas, like we've mentioned before, focusing on the developmental, the functional, and academic needs. Um, so this evaluation is a comprehensive and individualized, ensuring that the team gathers a full picture of the child's strength and needs to determine the eligibility and to guide the appropriate support. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Under IDA 2004, the evaluation team is responsible for assessing a child in all areas of suspected disabilities to determine if the child qualifies for special education. We've mentioned before that the members the required members of the evaluation team are parents, because you bring the insight about your child, the general education teacher, which provides information about the child's performance in the classroom and how they're responding to instructions and or intervention. You will also have a qualified individual to interpret assessment results. So typically we're looking at like the school psychologist or any other specialist, such as speech and language pathologist, who can explain the meaning of the evaluation data. You can Other professionals may be included depending on the needs and what they're looking at. Some additional professionals may be the education teacher or the intervention specialist, occupational therapy or physical therapist, vision or hearing specialist, the nurse, and other individuals that have a specific knowledge or expertise. That could be the private therapist or anything like that. So the composition of the team is flexible beyond the required roles allowed, allowing the school to include appropriate professional based on the child's suspected area of disability. And just remember that a parent is an equal team member because you have the right to participate fully in the process, which is including the planning, evaluation, and the decision making. Next slide.
Real quick before you go on,
Mhm.
Alma, so it takes, I saw in the roadmap, it takes like 90 days before the actual IEP can be implemented.
Yeah, so you have 30 days for whenever the request is made. Then you have 60 days from whenever the written consent is said, and then the evaluation starts. So that adds up to 90 days from whenever you sit down and actually start doing the IEP and implementing the IEP.
Okay.
Um,
That
so yes,
seems like a long time.
it can be
What is the school's responsibility to the child during that
during
90
that time,
days?
during their time period. I mean, they're going to be providing the interventions. That's the hope, that the interventions that they're doing that stuff legally, they're not hold accountable for the services and stuff until the ETR and the IEP is complete,
Okay.
because that's the legal binding document that holds the school accountable for all that,
Okay.
at least from the initial. Now, whenever
Yeah.
we're talking about reevaluation, that's a whole different thing. Then
Right.
whenever they're doing the reevaluation, they're still held accountable and they should be providing all those services um, during that process.
Right.
They
Okay.
shouldn't stop. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
No, no, no problem. When a parent gives when a parent gives written consent for an issue evaluation or a revaluation, the public school district is legally required to pay for the full cost of the evaluation and to conduct it at no cost to the parent. So this includes all assessments needed to determine whether the child is eligible for special education services under IDEA. Important note is that schools cannot require a parent to pay for any part of the evaluation that is to include specialized testing, observations, relative services such as OT assessments. However, if the parent has already paid a third party and they have that, it is highly encouraged for them to share that information, but it's not obligated. Um, so who administers the evaluation? So it would be a qualified school personnel. The evaluation must be conducted by a professional who is licensed and certified in the field, trained to use the tools and the assessments appropriately, and is able to interpret the results and contribute to eligibility decision. And like I said before, some of the individuals that may be in this role is the school psychologist, the speech and language pathologist, nurses, special education teachers, or intervention specialists. And it is important to note that the role of the parent is to be a partner in this process and to provide any kind of input, concerns, and any observations to include them in there as well. Each professional evaluates the child in their area of expertise upon the suspected disability. Next slide. In most cases, school-based evaluations are conducted in the school building where the child is enrolled. This is done by making the process more familiar and less stressful and more accessible for the student. However, the how and the where of the evaluation process may vary depending on the type of the assessment, the child's individual need, and the testing requirements. So some of the settings could be a one-on-one in a separate room. So this is how many of the standardized assessments such as cognitive tests, speech evaluations are administered in a quiet and distraction-free space to ensure the accuracy of and fairness of the results. The other way is in a small group setting. Some assessment, such as the academic screening tools or certain functional skill tests, may be given in a small group setting, especially if peers interaction is part of that observation. The other is the observations in a classroom. The evaluation team may observe the child in their natural learning environment. This is to include in a whole group instruction, small group work, transitioning between activities, social interactions during class or recess. This helps a real-time functioning and behaviors in the context. So they want to look at it in the settings that they're conducting their learning. The other thing is participating in a structural small group activity. For younger students and for those with suspected social or behavioral concerns, evaluators may access participation, communication, and regulation skills in activities like some of the things could be like circle time, center, or group play. So time and testing conditions. Each standardized test come with specific administration guidelines, which are include like time limits and flexible timing, testing environment requirements, breaks or accommodations needed, especially for students with sensory, attention, or behavioral needs, and who is qualified to administer it. The conditions are crucial to ensure the validity and the re reliability of the results. So if the conditions were to change during the administration of the evaluation, if the location is different than the instruction, or the evaluator deviates from the standard deviation procedures, or if the child becomes ill, distracted, or refuses to participate, also the timing is extended or short. Any of these changes in condition must be documented. Specifically, the evaluator is required to note the deviation in the class assessments report, explain the reason for the change, and address whether the result is still valid. The transparency protection protects the integrity of the evaluation and ensures that any decision made based on the results are fair and appropriate. So this matters because understanding how and where the evaluation are administered helps families so that they can feel confident in the process, know what to expect, ask informed questions, ask informed questions if concerns arise, and advocate for appropriate accommodation for their child during testings. Next slide. So some of the reasons on why accurate evaluation matters, understanding your child needs a clear evaluation shows where your child is, how your child is doing and where they need support, whether it's academically, socially, or developmentally. It also it also helps to get the right help. The results help the school to choose the best services, support, and therapist for your child. It also protects your child's right. The evaluation is the starting point for an IEP. Without accurate information, your child may not get any or may not get all of the help that they are legally entitled to. It also tracks growth over time. Knowing your child's starting point helps the school measure progress and adjust support as your child grows and learns. It also includes your voice. Your input is part of the evaluation, so your concerns and knowledge about your child are included in the plan. Next slide. So in the next slide, we're going to be talking about assessments. Assessment tools are the best, I'm sorry, assessment tools are tests, checklist, observation, and other instructions that are used for an evaluation to gather information about your child's skill, ability, and needs. So they help the school measure how your child is doing in areas such as academic, uh, cognition, speech and language, motor skills, behavioral and or social emotional development, and adaptive everyday living skills. So here are some of the different types of assessments. We have the standardized testings, which these are formal testings that are given the same way to every child. Um, there's the observations, which is watching the child in the classroom or any other settings and to see how they interact, how they focus, follow directions, or complete tasks. The rating scales and checklists are filled out by the parents or teachers to rate the child's behavior, attention, emotional, and social skills. The other thing is the interviews. This is talking to parents, teacher, and the child to gather background information and insight. You also have the curriculum-based assessments. This is to measure how well the child is learning the school curriculum. We also have the developmental inventories, which is used for younger children to access the early skills and motor coordinations, communication, and or play. So why is this important? They help identify if a child has a disability. It guides the team to making an appropriate decision, helps determine what kind of services or support a child may need. Just remember that no single tool can determine eligibility. IDA requires that the evaluation used are a variety of tools and strategies to get the full picture of the child. Next slide. So here are some other common types of evaluation tools that are used to measure different areas. So we have the IQ and cognitive ability test. These are tools to measure how a child thinks, solves problems, and remembers information. Some of the testing under this would be like the Webster's Intelligence Scale for Children, 5th edition, or the Kaufman Assessment Battery for Children. So the other areas is the academic achievement test. So this measures what a child knows and can do in the areas like reading, writing, and in math. We also have the speech and language assessments, which is used to evaluate language development, articulation, understanding, and expressive abilities. Some of the common tests that are used here are the clinical evaluation of language fundamentals. The other one is the Peabody Picture Vocabulary Test, expressive vocabulary test, or the Goldman-Fristow test of articulation. The other area is the social, emotional, and behavioral assessments. And here they examine behavior, emotional functioning, and social skills across different settings. This could be home, schools. You can request it to be during bus rides. I know another area is the transportation part of it. Some kids need the extra, may need support there. Some of the common screenings are behavioral assessment system for children. The other one is connecting Connor's rating scale, or the Vineland adaptive behavior scales. So there's different ones that they use. If you want to know the specifics, this is when you can ask whenever you're having that plan meeting. The other area is the perceptual motor skills of assessment. So here we are assessing the fine motor skills. We are looking at writing, grasping, and gross motor skills such as running and jumping. This screening is not necessarily a pass or fail. This is more so to see how your child is using their body and their senses to learn and move. And then we have the adaptive living skill evaluation, which looks at the daily living abilities such as communication, self-care, and socialization. One of the common ones that are used is the Adaptive Behavior Assessment System, third edition. So to encompass this is to say that IDEA requires that the team uses more than one assessment tool or source. So not one single test can determine if the child has a disability or what kind of service they may need. Instead, schools should use a variety of tools, data sources, and observations to ensure the fairness and accuracy of the test. Next.
One thing I want to add really quick that I've learned over the years as an advocate is that certain schools have purchased certain evaluations. These
Mhm.
evaluations can be incredibly expensive. So when you're making those requests, sometimes, you might identify what the need is and then ask if what evaluation they have available to assess that need, right?
Yes.
Instead of maybe
And
coming with a specific assessment, because I've noticed that we've gotten pushback in the past when you ask
mhm.
for a specific assessment if the school has one that is similar, right?
Yes. Yes, that's a great point. Yes, you definitely, and I think this is where that plan meeting is beneficial, because you can have that conversation. Like, these are the concerns. What kind of test do you already have that's similar to that? So definitely. Going back to the slides. Once an evaluations are complete and it is documented in the evaluation team report, which is also known as the ETR. The school will schedule a meeting to review the results and determine the next step for the student. So this meeting is it's a collaborative discussion between the school professionals and the child's parents and or guardians. And the ETR is a comprehensive summary of all evaluation results, and it can include a list of all assessments that were administered, the professionals who conducted each assessment, the child's performance in each test area, and then it can also identify strengths and areas of concern. It would also include recommendations based on that finding. So the ETR is used to determine whether the child qualifies for special education services under one or more of the 13 disability categories that was defined by IDEA. So during the ETR meeting, the each evaluator, such as the school pathologist or the speech and language pathologist, will present their findings. The test scores, observation, interpretations are explained in clear, understandable language. The team can discuss how the results impact the child's ability to access and progress in the general curriculum. So during this time, we encourage parents to ask questions. If they don't understand something, see if that can be explained, share their own observations and concerns, fully participate in a decision-making process. So this meeting is structured to ensure that all voices are heard and that decisions are made collaboratively. To ensure a complete and accurate understanding of the evaluation results, the following individuals should attend the ETR meeting, and this is who is required to attend, and this would be the parent and or guardian, the general educator, education teacher, special education teacher and or service providers, school psychologists, and other qualified professionals to interpret the test. Excuse me. district representatives, any other specialists that are involved in the evaluation. So that's who is mandatory to and during this meeting you can also have advocates. This is where a parent can bring a support person, you know. So just know that. What happens during the meeting? So the ETR will be reviewed section by section. Specialists will explain their findings and how they relate to the child's educational performance. The team discusses whether the student meets eligibility criteria for special education under IDEA. And then everybody, including the parent, is invited to ask questions, provide any input, and discuss concerns. The goal is to make an informed, team-based decision that are in the best interest of the child. Next slide. At the conclusion of the review, the team will determine if the child qualifies for special education under the 13 categories outlined in IDA 2004. If any needs, if the child needs specialized instruction to make any progress in school. So eligibility is not based on a one single test or opinion. It is based on a comprehensive review of our evaluation data, classroom, and input from both the school and the parent. Whenever we're finalizing the ETR, if there is an agreement among the team member that the child meets eligibility criteria, it will be noted in the document, the ETR. All the members will, including the parents, are going to be asked to sign the report. Signing the document indicates that you're in agreement with the team's decision. So here I want to note a big thing, that if a team member disagrees with the decision, you are able to document it in this report. So whenever you're signing, you're saying that you're agreeing. So, but you also have the option of saying, okay, I'm signing, but I do not agree with this portion or whatnot. So you want to make sure that that is noted, because if you don't note that, then you're saying that you're agreeing with everything. So I think that's a big a note that I encourage my parents that, if there's a portion in during this meeting that you do not agree, you want to state it, you want to make sure that it's in there so that it shows. Next step moving forward. Okay, so once eligibility is confirmed, another meeting will be set to write the individualized education program, which is the IEP, and that will be scheduled within 30 calendar days of this date, whenever the ETR is complete. So the IEP will outline specific services, accommodation, or any support that is going to be tailored to that child's unique learning need. So if by any chance the child does not qualify under IDEA, the team may recommend other support options such as a Section 504 plan, which if the child has a disability that may impact major life activities but does not require specialized instruction. So the other option would be to do a 504, which is accommodations, or just general education interventions such as small group instruction, maybe behavioral support or reading interventions. So those are the other options. And under the parent right, the parent will receive a copy of the ETR, whether it's printed or digital for their records. They must also be provided with a prior written notice explaining what the team has decided. So if the parent has the right to disagree with the findings. So if you do not agree with what the school found, you can request a follow-up meeting. You can also request an independent educational evaluation, which is a IEE, or you can request a mediation or a due process hearing that's more formal. So you have those options if you do not agree with what the finding was. Next slide, please. So the The ETR is a formal document that summarizes all assessment results and determines if the child is qualified for the special education. And it also what the child's currently education needs are. So because the role in determining eligibility, the ETR is considered a legal finalized document once completed and signed by the team. So once it's signed by everybody, it's a legal document. Unlike the IEP, which is the Individualized Education Program, which can be revised and updated throughout the school year, a ETR cannot be simply amended. So once it's finalized, there's no option to go back and edit the original report. If new concerns were to arise or if additional information becomes relevant, the school cannot just adjust the existing ETR. Instead, they must follow a formal procedural to update and revisit the evaluation process. So some things, what can be done if a new concern arises? So if something changes, like a decline in academic performance, new behavioral, you know, things come up. The school can do one of the following actions. So they can conduct a reevaluation, which is a new evaluation that is initiated. Um, the parent consent will be required, and this can happen at any time, but is typically allowed no more than once per year, unless the team agrees to do it sooner. They can also review the existing data. The IEP team can review the current data based on the teacher's observation grades, intervention, stuff like that. Based on the review, they may determine that no additional testing is needed, or they may decide to move forward with a formal reevaluation. So I think it's a big note that once it's finalized, it's not supposed to be amended. Think of the ETR as a snapshot in time. It reflects what the team knew about your child at that point of the evaluation. If change, if things change later, the school cannot just edit the report. Instead, a new evaluation process must begin to ensure that all information is current, accurate, and reflective of your child's need. Next slide. If you disagree with the school's evaluation, you have the right to request an independent education evaluation, which is the IEE. Under IDEA, parents have the legal right to request an independent evaluation. So what is an independent evaluation? An independent evaluation is an evaluation conducted by a qualified professional who is not employed by the school district. This outside evaluator provides a second opinion about your child's ability, challenges, and educational need. So some of the areas of assessments that the may assess any of the same areas that the school evaluation to include cognitive functioning, academic achievement, speech and language, behavioral and emotional development, motor skills, social skills, adaptive. So they can be essentially the same areas that was done with the initial, but it's just a third party. It's a second opinion. So the parents have the right to request it if they agree with any part of the school evaluation. And this can be overall, or it can be in specific areas. So how do you request it? So you request it with a written request, similar to like the initial one. I'm going to provide a sample letter in the chat group. So it's similar to that. So you submit a written request. You clearly want to state that you disagree with the results of the school evaluation and requesting an independent educational evaluation at the public expense. There is no requirement for the parent to explain or justify their disagreement, even though we although you may do so if you choose. So you don't have to provide a justification, but you can. Next slide. So what happens after the request? Once the school receives the request, they are required to respond promptly. So there's not a specific date or by certain date. It just can't be an excessive. It can't be like a year from that date, you know. So the district can do two things. So they can agree to provide the IEE at the public expense, or they can initiate a due process hearing to prove that their own evaluation was appropriate. So they cannot delay or ignore the request. So those are the options. So they'll either agree and they'll give you the information. Like normally they can provide you a list of qualified independent evaluators that are in the district, or you can also find your own. So the parents are not limited to the list that the school provides. And the school will be, I'm sorry, if the district agrees to fund the independent evaluation, the evaluation will be conducted at no cost to the parent. The district is responsible for covering the reasonable fees associated with the evaluation. Also, if the district refuses and proves through a hearing that its evaluation was appropriate, they are not required to pay the IEE. So if they say no and they do the hearing and they they say that it was appropriate, their determination was appropriate, then the school is off the hook essentially. So they don't have to pay for that independent evaluation. However, the parent still has the right to obtain an independent evaluation at their own expense and have it considered by the IEP team. So once the independent evaluation is finalized, a copy of the report is provided to both the parent and the school. Then the IEP team must consider the finding of what the IEE when making the decision about eligibility, special education service, placement, or any accommodation and or support. However, the school is not required to agree with what the independent evaluation is recommending. They must consider them. So that's the big takeaway right there. So if you feel the school evaluation missed something important or does not reflect your child's true need, you have the right to request a second opinion, which is the IEE at no cost to you. Just put it in writing. So I think that's the biggest takeaway. And just a little bit about the IEP. So and we have another training that we can focus into the IEP and what it is. So it's just a plan developed for the student who qualifies for special education under IDEA. So here it looks at the student's current level of performance. It will provide specific goals to the student that they will work on for that year, the school year. Special education services and support that the school will be providing, any kind of accommodation or modification that will be needed to help the student learn, and how progress will be measured. The IEP is created by a team, which also includes the parent, teacher, specialist, or any school representative, and must be reviewed and updated at least once a year. And with the IEP, as a parent, you can request a meeting anytime if you have any concerns. Next slide. So we come to the final end of it. So the evaluation team report is a vital tool in understanding a child's unique educational need and determining eligibility for the services. Through a collaborative, transparent, and data-driven process, the school and families can work together to ensure that every child receives the support that they need to succeed. So just remember that you're not alone in this process. Your input is valuable. And if you have any questions, please ask. The ETR is a process that is not just paperwork, but it's a procedural. So it's about understanding the whole child. Um, and just to know that, the more that you know, the better that you can advocate for your child. Essentially, we all want what's best for your child, and we're here for you. Just a little quick note that as OCECD, we are here to support and inform all parents, and our services are at no cost to the parents. We can do one-on-one sessions. We can do sessions similar to this. We can have go through the IEP section by section. So if you have any questions or at any point you want to contact us, here's our information. Please visit our website. There's a ton of information there. There's sample letters, there's tip notes, there's a lot of information there that you have, and you can contact a person and talk to someone if you have specific questions about your child. And that's it for me. Thank you for taking the time and being here with me today, learning about this. I am providing a link so that you can do an evaluation for me, please. This helps us with the funding as we all are funded through the support that we provide. I highly ask you to please go and do the evaluation. It helps us become better as presenters. So whenever you click that link, I am your presenter is Alma Davis. Training that we did today was understanding the evaluation process through IDEA. So please do that for us. If you have any questions, I'm here. Yeah, I'll open the floor.
Thank you, Alma. Thank you so much. There are a couple things, and it looks like Darla, do you have a question? Go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm gonna ask, well, thank you, Alma. It was a lot of information,
Yes.
very helpful, the attachments that you sent in the chat and things like that. But I guess my question is more not about the initial evaluation or kind of the reevaluation, but more so about like you where you're working. Is that something that we can give parents? So I work more with like the end, like the transition, maybe they're looking at deferring diploma. There's a lot of not lack of advocacy, but I would love to like help parents have more advocacy in that realm. We work a lot with the project searches down here in Cincinnati, and a lot of school districts just say, no, you met your goals. You don't need to go to that. And I would love to provide parents with more information because I'm not sure that that's probably the case. Probably IEP goals are not appropriate or assessed actual like what anyways. And so is that okay to give parents?
Yes. Please send them over to us. We do offer transition information. I think we do have a training in regards to transition, the different transition points that there are. Obviously, I'm not an educator and I don't know the ins and outs about the different diploma, but we try to give them as much information. And if we don't know the information, we work with other people that have that information. So definitely, feel free to send the families over our way. We're here. I also put in the chat my information and the office information. So, email. Like I feel like everybody is great with email. So just give us send us a email or call us. Someone will be able to refer them to the families, the support that they need. And the only reason I say that is because, like I said, we are a statewide organization, and we have different people that are different staff members that focus in different districts. So I don't want to just say, oh yeah, everybody come to me, because I might not necessarily be the person that will be helping them, but I will find someone else that will be helping them in that district.
Thank
Darla,
you.
also, just so you know, transition's my specialty. I have
Oh, there
been
you go.
through I've been through these meetings for my whole entire career. In the last 12 years, especially at Best Point in the Heights Center, where we constantly had to qualify if a kid was able to continue their education, and specifically in project search. So I'm happy to be a resource to you. One thing that I've learned recently is that the parent has to make the connection to OCECD. They cannot be like, you can't contact them on their behalf, Darla. So I just realized that recently.
Yes, thank you. Thank
Um,
you so much for saying that, Amanda. Yes,
yeah,
our contact has to be directly from the family. You can refer us in the sense like, hey, I have this family, here's their contact information. We'll email them or give them a short call and just say, hey, they have to come to us. If you provide an email and CC their information, I normally reach out to them and just say, hey, I'm so and so. Please contact me whenever you want to have a conversation. But yes, the families do have to be the ones that reach out to us. It's just the organizational policy that we do have. But yes, don't be scared to just shoot an email and say, hey, we have this family and we can always work with them. But yes, the family does have to reach out to us first. I can't take that information from you directly.
Okay, that's cool. And then Amanda, like, is there a specific contact? Because I would love to share it with the teachers of the program too, because we're the ones working, like when people are coming in for open houses and things like that, that's where we're seeing a lot.
Can you provide me your email? Because I can send you all of our pamphlets
Yeah.
and stuff like that you can have. And you know, we can probably even mail it to your school, really. I have
Yeah.
my coworker, she helps the English speaking families and she's near there. She lives in the outskirts of Cincinnati. So we have different staff that live in different areas and cover different areas, but luckily we do have some people that live closer and sometimes they do go to different conferences or different schools. So definitely, I will send you an email with our information so you can share with families. And I'm gonna see if we can even email you some of that our organization information too.
Thank you.
I wanted to add a couple of just some applicable little items that I've experienced over the years. So, number one, always got to represent for Kentucky, guys. Got to represent. Completely different processes in Kentucky, different terminology. They call it the
Yes.
Admissions and Release Committee. It's called an ARC and the ARC is not like the
Yeah.
ARC that you think of in Ohio, and it's very confusing. So, I did add that to the Padlet. There's a special education process in Kentucky. It has that terminology in it. That being said, no matter where you are, do not hesitate to ask for explanations of terminology and acronyms. I know a lot of times people might feel intimidated or they feel like they've been talked down to or things like that. But like the great majority of human beings do not speak in these terms or
Acronyms.
use these acronyms. So it's very natural. It's also a good reminder to the team that they really need to use plain language instead of terminology when they're talking. Um, when it comes to people that are getting evaluated every 3 years, my recommendation is that you use similar or the same evaluations from the previous evaluation so you can compare that data directly. You can actually see if a kid has made progress or if they have plateaued or if they've even regressed if you use the same. If you use different evaluations, it's harder. The data is different. The measurements can be different. Um, I would give families at least a week to be able to review that document, make notes, questions, things like that, adjustments, ask them if they can to send that input prior to the meeting. It's just good collaboration with the team. If there's surveys that need to be completed by families, I would request support around that. A lot of times, again, there are terminology in the surveys that can be confusing or even frustrating to families if they're trying to complete the survey. And that's a lot of times why families don't complete the surveys. It's not because they are just refusing the process. It's more because they don't want to mess up the process. They feel like they're going to do something wrong. And then like you were talking, Alma, about just like if you're disagreeing, like the IEE can be used, the independent evaluation can be used for a variety of things, but it might be used because you have a kid who you're asking for speech services and they're like, well, he can talk, he's fine. And you're like, no, 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 no. He has social pragmatic issues, like major issues. I have this independent evaluation from his private provider. I'd really like you to look at that and consider that input. That's one reason. Another reason I see a lot of times is because there's a disagreement on the educational diagnosis. So, like, the team will want to go with emotional disturbance, and the family really wants to go with OHI because they think it's ADHD. They don't think it's a mental health diagnosis that really explains why the student's having issues in the school. So, that's another reason why there's disagreement on a pretty regular basis. And I think those were the couple of notes that I made throughout, but lots of great information.
And I know the training is intense. It's a lot of information. And sometimes you take away something that you didn't think about before. So yes, definitely. Uh, I'm glad that you're chiming in. Yes, a lot of the IE is disagreements because of like you said, diagnosis. And obviously, as we know, depending on what the diagnosis is and how they write it, they get different benefits, different supports. So yes, definitely. Don't be shy to use it. It's there, you know.
Does anybody else on the call have any other questions or I see Laura
I
unmuted?
don't. I thank
Great.
you so much for all of this. It's a lot to think about and a lot to digest, but it was very informative. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Laura. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Our next Advocacy in Action is on October 23rd, and we are going to hear from Ocali, the Lifespan Transition Center. And we're going to hear about all the resources and tools that they have, but also take a deeper dive into pre-ETS. So that pre-employment curriculum that students should have access to if it is in their IEP. So we're going to be learning more about that on October 23rd. And that meeting is going to be at 5 o'clock from 5 to 6:30 p.m. And it will be recorded. So if you can't join us, you'll catch it on YouTube at another time. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Alma, for your time. And we'll see you next time.